Hey, it's Marty. Probably the number one question I get, especially with first-time buyers, but across the full spectrum is, what's the minimum credit score? Or if my credit score is X, what's required, or how does that affect what rate I get? The best way I can explain this is, first of all, to go with kind of an overview. Credit scores range on the low end from in the low 400s all the way to just about 800 on the high end. The average credit score in America is about 660. The average for first-time home buyers is a little lower than that, in the high 640s. Basically, if you have a score above 620, we have lots of options. The options then get progressively cheaper from 620 all the way to about 740, and above 740 they kind of plateau and flatten out, where once you're at 740 and above, you are automatically qualified for the best deal. The interesting part for me about credit scores is how little people understand and how much they try to use logic and reason to intuit why a score is what it is. There'll be a couple of other videos that you'll be able to check. I don't want to put it all in this one because it would be too long, that I can explain not only how scores can be modified, but how simple little tweaks like paying before your due date, because a due date and reporting date might not be the same, can help your score. When you're applying, the middle score, so for most borrowers you're going to have 3 scores unless you have very limited credit, in which case you might not have a score with one of the 3 repositories. The 3 repositories, as most of you know, because the TV has blasted this in the last decade or so, used to be almost nobody knew, now I think everyone knows, are TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. All 3 of them have a little different information, and they have a little differences in model. So the scores are very similar, but they're not homogeneous. We use the middle score of the 3, and if there's more than one borrower, it's always the lowest of the middle score. So if you and your spouse are applying and your middle score is 640 and hers is 680, 640 is the magic number. It's not an average of the 3, and it's not an average of the 2 applicants. So it's that middle score that prevails. What I find is that the sooner in the process we evaluate your score to figure out whether there are little tricks or little tweaks, perfectly legitimate ones, to help your score improve to get you the best deal possible, the sooner we attack that, the better, because you won't have to pay extra expense to manage that score or to have a rescore done. Just as important is probably the number one credit myth that's out there, is that every inquiry hurts your score. Kind of, but not really. So if you check with mortgage lender, let's say you get sucked into the commercial and you decide to try the Rocket Mortgage with Quicken, a lot against Quicken, but let's say you try that and you decide to come to the light and use the local lender and do it the right way. That second inquiry, as long as it's within 120 days of the first one, does not count as an extra hit. It will show on your report. You will probably need to write something about why the inquiry occurred, but it does not additionally affect your score. So the first one affects it, the second one doesn't. That was statutorily implemented a few years back to allow consumers the right to shop. It also applies for things like car loans. So if you go to the car lot and they check it, 4 different lenders check it to see who can get you the best deal on the lease, it's only going to count in the scoring model as one inquiry. So you fully have the right to shop around and check. Those inquiries don't hurt. They do logs so that you'll know they're there and another lender would know they're there, so they can ask you. People say, why do you need an explanation? Well, we want to make sure you're not taking 2 loans on the same house at the same time with 2 lenders, and things like that. So again, it's not logical though. In fact, the video we'll shoot right after this, if you have any questions on the logic or reason of credit scores, just click on that link, because trust me, I have long since given up trying to defend the system. It simply explains risk to lenders. It's not logical, it's not reasonable, it's a risk predictor, and because people's behavior isn't always logic and reasonable, that risk predictor doesn't necessarily follow what you would think. If you have any questions, though, just get in touch and we'll help you through. And again, the sooner we can look at that, the easier it'll be for you.